All right, this came out. This was good news for retro game preservation. Some good news, thankfully. So, you've heard of Satellaview, right? So Satellaview was in Japan, and it was a subscription service for the Super Famicom, Super Nintendo, if you want to call it. It was a satellite modem. That's where Satella comes from. Let's see. I'm looking on Wikipedia right this. It came out in '95, and it came bundled with a game pack and a memory pack. So there were stuff was broadcast that you logged onto. I'm not an expert on this, but it was possible to download games onto the cartridge from online. So then you played the game on that cartridge. And then once you're done or once you download a new game, that memory was erased. That's where the bad part comes in here, because there were a lot of downloadable titles that came out that were hard to preserve because of this. There was a Link to the Past game that you could only play on Satellaview that for years and years no one can get a hold of at the time. So that was obviously not good news for people either were fans of video game preservation or Legend of Zelda. Like that's just not good. They did other stuff. They did like little broadcasts. They did contests, things of that nature. So why I'm bringing this up is because we fortunately are closer to getting some of these downloadable titles that Nintendo made available only on Satellaview. We're getting closer to preserving these more and more. Usually this stuff comes up, these carts that came with the Satellaview, usually these come up in auction. But at this point, 20 years later, after the service has been shut off, it was shut off. It was shut off in early 2000s. All right, it was still around. Wow, it was still around by then. You don't know how many games are around anymore. How many of these ROMs are still active on this flash memory, and so these come up on Yahoo auction, since there really is no eBay in Japan. When you get these, you don't know what's going to be on there. What game is going to be on there? It's unless they somehow have a Super Famicom and testing it and see what's on there. But usually that's not going to happen. So the good news is an auction just came about where there were Kirby games. I had no idea there were Kirby games, Satellaview games at all. These were considered lost until this week. This is an Ars Technica article that was brought to my attention. So an auction came about with not one, two, three, four Kirby mini games from a collection of 6 that were made only available on the Satellaview. It was Kirby's Toy Box. This is the first I'm hearing about this. So this was released on the Satellaview February 8th, 1996. Okay? Kirby's Toy Box series was broadcast over Nintendo's first form of digital distribution, the Satellaview network. And depending on when the player connects to the network, different games were available at different times. So it's not like you were downloading the collection of minigames. You were getting one out of these. Just the one. So there were 6 of these. Oh, there's more than 6. Let's see. According to this wiki here. You had a baseball minigame. You had a pinball. Sort of a breakout clone called Star Break. Balls Round and Round. A game called Cannonball. These are like single screen games. Sort of a bagatelle game called Arranging Balls. A pachinko game. Ball rallies. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So as far as I know, I've never seen these played. I don't know if these are even on YouTube, some of these. That's how hard it is to find these games at this point. Or get them preserved. So this auction came up where a guy had 4 of these for sale, and he had them identified. That's a big deal. It wasn't just, okay, these are random Satellaview cartridges with who knows what's on them. Could be nothing, could be a game. Guy had 4 of them. So the 4 that were for auction were Circular Ball, Cannonball, Pachinko, and a Range Ball on 4 different cartridges. Again, it was a crapshoot what you got on the cartridge, And it's a crapshoot. You would have had to have downloaded these games and never downloaded another game from the network to play. That's what's amazing, that these 4 came up for auction by one seller. The odds of this happening are so small. So what happened was, I saw a tweet from my friend and game preservationist, Frank Cifaldi, who's on lostlevels.org. So he wanted to raise money to get these so he can get them and dump the ROMs and preserve these. So Frank Cifaldi and a preservationist named Matthew Callis sought out donations, and they won all 4. They raised money, and they won all 4 cartridges. This to me is a low price. Thankfully, no assholes out there who are going to hold these ROMs hostage knew about this, which I'll get to in a second. They won all 4 for $813 roughly, 85,500 yen. So that doesn't mean that this is all the Kirby games on Satellaview. They're still missing ones, but you're getting a little bit closer to filling in the gaps. Now, you wish Nintendo would release these. Obviously, Nintendo has these somewhere in the vault. You wish they would at least have these available. They won't, but at least they are preserved, just not for the public. I mean, that's sort of the weird. These aren't lost games. These are games that Nintendo has. They're just figured, well, no one either wants them or there's no advantage to us in the marketplace of putting them out there. I mean, hell, they could put out a set of mini games and put them on their 3DS for sale, a virtual console, whatever, on the Wii U or the Switch coming up, and sell them. Maybe this would help spur a monster's interest. I don't know. I'm interested in playing Kirby mini games. Who cares? Or goofy little games, but who cares? It could be fun. So that's the good news. So they're going to get these ROMs and dump them. They're not going to hold them hostage for years. They're not going to say, well, I got to make my money back on the money I paid for these, so I can only release these games the way they were meant to be on a Super Famicom cart. No, they're not doing that. They're not scum fucks. They're real preservationists. They care about video game history and finding games that are either lost to the annals of time or not readily available like these. Hell, this is the first I'm hearing these games existed. So they're teaching me here as we're going along and teaching lots of other people that there's games out here that are even lost or unplayed from the big Nintendo company, the Big N, as it's called. So the issue that we brought up before, though, with games like this is that this will become more and more common in growing in years to come when so many more games that come out now are tied to servers online. I mean, fortunately, with these games, you had people that, again, it's almost a miracle that one person had 4 different these Satellaview games on different carts and kept them. Maybe they were a collector, who knows? It's a minor miracle. But in the future, you're going to have games just sitting around on old PS3s and PS4s and Xbox 360s that will be gone and not available anywhere else. Small indie titles, for example, or even some larger games that need to connect to a server to play. So hopefully preservationists figure all that out, and hopefully they get the exemptions that they can get away with through the copyright laws in order to replicate those servers, and the games needed to be played only on those, basically cloned servers to play these games that aren't available anymore for sale. But that's where we're headed. Xbox 360 is 10 years old already. PS3 is, 2006, 2007? 9 years old, the system. It's coming up quicker than you think, and we'll get to that point where it'll be hard to find a functioning console that has that one specific game that only sold, like 1,000 of them, for example. Remember Flappy Bird? Remember how Flappy Bird, they took that off the market for a while? The guy took it off the market. Then phones with the game on it were selling for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. It's not a joke. They were for that month or two. Because people want to play Flappy Bird. Not saying you're going to get there with consoles. There's that chance, though. That 10 years from now, on the podcast, when I'm 75 years old, we'll be talking about that PS3 console with that one game that no one downloaded at the time. Maybe it sucked, maybe it didn't, but you can't play it anywhere except because it's still on that console. And that's it.